Ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you something. Have you ever caught yourself standing on the edge of greatness, only to back away, not because of failure, but because of fear? You weren't stopped by your lack of talent. You weren't stopped by your circumstances. You were stopped by your own mind. The real reason you doubt yourself is because you have accepted someone else's voice as your own. You were not born with doubt. You were taught it. You were told what you could not do, who you could not become, and how high you could not climb. And over time, you began to believe the lie. Self-doubt is not a disease of the mind. It is a habit of thought. And like any habit, it can be broken, replaced, and rebuilt. You see, every human being possesses the same power, the power of thought. But not every human being uses it. Most drift through life, letting the world think for them. They inherit fears, opinions, and limits that were never theirs to begin with. But here's the truth. You become what you think about, not sometimes. All the battle is not out there in the world. The battle is within your own belief system. Your destiny is shaped not by your conditions, but by your decisions. And your greatest decision is to believe in yourself, not once, but every single day. Burn this into your mind. No one can make you doubt yourself without your permission. Decide today that your life will be a reflection of your vision, not your fears. Replace every doubt with faith, every hesitation with action, and every excuse with purpose. You already have the tools. You just need to claim them. Speak to yourself the words that build, not break. Surround yourself with voices that push, not pull. Act with the certainty of a person already in possession of their dream. Because you don't need to become someone else. You only need to become who you already are, without the chains of doubt dragging behind you. Victory belongs to those who expect it, pursue it, and claim it. In thought first, then in reality. So I ask you, will you let doubt be the author of your story? Or will you take back the pen? It's okay to feel fear, doubt, and uncertainty. You don't have to be perfect. Vulnerability is not a sign of weakness. It's a demonstration of courage. But here's something most people never realize. Self-doubt is not something you were born with. It's something you learn. Think back to when you were a child. You believed you could do anything. You ran without worrying about falling. You spoke without rehearsing your lines. You dreamed without limits. That confidence didn't come from ego. It came from purity, from not yet knowing the weight of judgment, failure, or comparison. Somewhere along the line, that changed. Maybe it was a careless comment from a teacher. Maybe it was a parent who wanted to protect you by saying, be realistic. Maybe it was a moment of failure that someone magnified instead of mentoring you through. Whatever it was, that moment planted a seed, a false belief that said, you're not enough, or you can't. Over time, that belief took root. It became a whisper in your mind, a hesitation in your step, a tightening in your chest when opportunity knocked. You began to internalize other people's fears as your own truth, and once repeated often enough, those external doubts became internal certainties. But here's the good news. If you learned to doubt yourself, you can unlearn it too. Just as negative thoughts were installed through repetition, positive, empowering thoughts can take their place. You don't erase old patterns by force, you replace them with better ones. The moment you become aware that your doubt isn't yours, that it was given to you, you gain power over it. You are not your past, you are not your programming. You are the thinker of your thoughts, and you can choose new ones. Every time you take a step forward despite the fear, every time you speak your truth, even with a trembling voice, you rewrite that inner script. You remind yourself of who you were before the world told you who to be. And in that remembrance, you rediscover something extraordinary. The courage you need is already within you. You just have to give yourself permission to use it. You are stopped by fear, not failure. Most people don't fail because they're incapable. They fail because they never fully begin. The hesitation you feel when a big opportunity shows up isn't your potential resisting you, it's fear disguising itself as logic, caution, or timing. But the truth is, what you call not ready is often just fear dressed in polite excuses. Fear is a master of deception. It doesn't shout, it whispers. It whispers, what if you're not good enough? What if they laugh? What if you fall flat on your face? And so you retreat, not because you lack skill, not because you lack potential, but because you've let fear call the shots. Yet no dream ever becomes reality without a risk. No breakthrough ever arrives without stepping into uncertainty. Failure is not your enemy. In fact, failure is one of the most honest teachers you'll ever meet. It shows you where to adjust, where to grow, where to sharpen your edge. But fear doesn't care about growth. It cares about comfort. It will keep you stuck in places you've outgrown, convince you to say no to chances that could change your life, and push you to play small when the world is asking you to rise. Fear is powerful, but only if you feed it. The more attention you give it, the louder it becomes. But when you act despite it, when you lean into it, acknowledge it, and move forward anyway, you shrink its influence. You reclaim your power. Because fear is not a stop sign. It's a signal that you're on the edge of expansion. It's proof that you're pushing into something bigger than what you've known. You don't need to be fearless to succeed. You just need to stop giving fear the steering wheel. You can feel fear and still act with courage. You can tremble and still take the step. Because courage doesn't mean you don't feel fear. It means you do it anyway. The next time fear shows up, don't run from it. Ask yourself what it's trying to protect you from, and then move forward knowing that your future is far more valuable than your comfort zone. Thoughts shape reality. This isn't just a nice phrase for motivational posters. It's a universal truth, whether you believe it or not. Every action you take, every word you speak, and every result you create begins with a single thought. That thought may be buried beneath layers of doubt or repetition, but it's there, quietly shaping the direction of your life. Look around you. Everything you see, every building, every invention, every piece of art, every business began as a thought in someone's mind. At first, it was invisible, intangible, nothing but an idea. And then, through focus, belief, and persistence, it became real. That same power is within you. Your life right now is a reflection of the dominant thoughts you've accepted as true about yourself, about others, about the world. If you constantly think, I can't, you'll act in ways that ensure you don't. If you think, I'm not good enough, you'll unconsciously sabotage your own efforts just to stay aligned with that belief. But the opposite is also true. If you decide to think, I can figure this out, your brain begins to look for answers. If you tell yourself, I'm capable, even if I'm still learning, you start showing up with a different energy. The world doesn't respond to your potential. It responds to your projection. And your projection is rooted in your thoughts. The mind is like a garden. Whatever you plant there will grow. Plant seeds of fear and you'll harvest hesitation and regret. Plant seeds of belief and you'll reap action, progress, and transformation. The challenge is that most people let weeds grow unchecked. They let negative thoughts run wild without question, forgetting that they have the power to uproot them and plant something new. You don't need to control every thought that passes through your mind, but you do need to choose which ones you entertain, which ones you feed, and which ones you allow to guide your choices. You are not at the mercy of your thinking. You are the author of it. And when you begin to think deliberately with purpose and vision, reality starts to shift. Not because the world changes, but because you do. And as you change, everything else begins to align. Self-doubt is a habit of thought. It's not a fact, not a flaw, not some permanent defect in your personality. It's a repeated mental pattern that has been reinforced over time. The more you think in ways that diminish your worth, question your ability, and predict failure before you even begin, the more automatic those thoughts become. Just like any habit, the more you practice it, the more natural it feels. Even when it's working against you, we don't often realize that doubt is learned behavior, conditioned into us by repetition. A few critical voices in childhood, a setback that left a scar, a comparison that made you feel small. One moment doesn't define you, but if it goes unchallenged, your mind may replay it so often that it becomes your default response. Over time, doubt becomes comfortable, almost familiar. You may even mistake it for humility. But make no mistake, doubt is not truth. It's just a thought you've believed too many times. What's powerful to understand is that your brain is designed to build habits. It's not loyal to truth, it's loyal to repetition. So if you repeatedly tell yourself, I can't, I'm not ready, or I'm not enough, your mind will accept that as its operating system. And if you challenge those thoughts, if you install new ones like, I'm capable, I'm worthy, your mind will begin to accept those instead. It takes time, it takes intention, but it can be done. Breaking the habit of self-doubt starts with awareness. Catch the thought. Don't judge it, but don't let it run wild either. Interrupt it, replace it, speak back to it with truth, not fear. The goal is not to become someone who never doubts, but someone who refuses to live ruled by it. You are not your old thoughts. You are not your old programming. You are the thinker, the observer. That means you have the authority to choose a different thought and build a new habit, one of strength, one of belief, one that serves your vision, not your fear. When you change the habit of how you speak to yourself, you change how you show up in the world. And that shift is where transformation truly begins. Most people drift, not because they lack intelligence, talent, or ambition, but because they never take command of their own thoughts. They wake up each day reacting to the world instead of directing it. They move through life following routines, expectations, and noise that isn't even their own. They wait for instructions, for permission, for signs, never realizing that the power to decide has always been theirs. Drifting doesn't always look like failure. Sometimes it looks like success in the wrong direction. It looks like checking every box, meeting everyone else's standards, living a life that looks full but feels empty. It's working hard for goals that don't ignite your spirit. It's saying yes when your soul whispers no. It's mistaking movement for meaning. The danger is that drifting is comfortable. It doesn't demand too much. It doesn't threaten your pride. But over time, it costs you something far more valuable than safety. It costs you purpose. Without a clear vision, your mind becomes a sponge for outside opinions. Without a definite aim, your energy scatters in all directions. And when you let the world shape your thoughts, you lose the compass inside you. Drifting happens when you stop asking, what do I truly want? And start accepting what's convenient, familiar, or expected. It's when your life becomes a reaction instead of a creation. To stop drifting, you must decide. Decide who you are, what you stand for, and where you're going. That decision becomes your anchor. That vision becomes your fire. It doesn't mean you'll never get lost again, but it means you'll always find your way back. Because you're no longer waiting for life to lead you, you are leading your life. You have a mind, you have will, you have the ability to choose your thoughts, your beliefs, your direction. That alone separates you from the masses. Drifting may be the default, but it's not your destiny. The moment you wake up to your own authority, you stop floating and start creating. You stop echoing and start expressing, and from that point forward, your life is no longer an accident. It's a deliberate, powerful, and purposeful act. Your beliefs, not conditions, determine your destiny. Life doesn't shape you based on where you start, who your parents were, what education you had, or what resources you lacked. Life shapes you based on what you believe is possible, what you're willing to pursue, and what you refuse to surrender to. The world is full of people who started with nothing and built everything, not because the odds were in their favor, but because they believed they could rise above them. Belief is the ignition switch of human potential. If you believe you are capable, your mind begins to search for ways to prove it true. If you believe you are stuck, unworthy, or cursed by your past, your actions will follow that script. Your beliefs act like a lens. Everything you see, everything you experience is filtered through that lens. Two people can face the same setback. What makes the difference? Not the condition, not the event, the belief behind it. People often wait for the right time, the right conditions, the right support before they commit, but that approach keeps them waiting forever. You don't need perfect circumstances to move forward. You need a belief strong enough to move despite the circumstances, because belief creates momentum. Belief inspires action. Belief awakens courage. It says, even if I don't know how yet, I'll find a way. That mindset separates those who live by default from those who live by design. You cannot outperform your beliefs. If you secretly believe you don't deserve success, you will block it. If you believe you'll always struggle, you'll find ways to prove that true. But once you shift that internal narrative, once you start believing in your ability to grow, to create, to overcome, everything begins to change. You stop waiting and you start building. It's not your background, your age, or your obstacles that shape your future. It's your identity, the story you tell yourself about who you are and what you're capable of. And the moment that story changes, so does your path. You don't need a different world. You need a different belief about who you are in it. That's where your destiny begins. Faith must replace fear. You cannot serve both. They are two opposing forces pulling in different directions, one pushing you forward, the other holding you back. Fear whispers of what might go wrong. Faith speaks of what could go right. Fear limits your vision to what is. Faith expands it to what can be. In every decision, every challenge, every crossroads, you are choosing between the two. Fear is reactive. It thrives in the unknown, feeding on doubt and hesitation. It keeps your dreams locked behind a door labeled someday. It convinces you to shrink, to delay, to stay silent when you should speak, still when you should move. But fear only has as much power as you give it. It lives in your imagination, not in reality. And if you let it lead, it will build a life of safety, but never one of significance. Faith, on the other hand, is not blind hope. It's not about ignoring facts or pretending life is easy. Faith is clarity in the midst of uncertainty. It is the belief that even when the path isn't clear, you'll find your way. It's knowing that the power to overcome is already inside you, even when the evidence hasn't shown up yet. Faith fuels resilience. It gives you strength on the days when logic says to quit. It holds you together when the world seems to fall apart. You don't wait for faith to appear, you build it. You build it by taking one small step, again and again, even when fear is present. Every act of courage is a declaration of faith. Every time you choose to trust your instincts, speak your truth, or pursue your calling despite uncertainty, you are training your mind to believe in possibility over limitation. Fear is easy. Faith is earned. And yet, it only takes a shift in focus to begin. Stop feeding fear with your attention. Stop rehearsing what could go wrong. Instead, begin imagining what could go right. Begin trusting that the vision within you was placed there for a reason, and that you were made to bring it to life. There will never be a perfect moment, a time when all fear disappears, but there will always be a choice. Feed the fear and stay where you are, or feed the faith and step into who you're meant to become. Empowering self-talk is crucial. The words you speak to yourself are not harmless. They are instructions to your mind. commands that shape how you think, how you feel, and ultimately how you act. Most people would never speak to someone else the way they speak to themselves. They criticize, belittle, and question their worth internally in ways they'd never dare say out loud. And yet they wonder why confidence feels so far away, why motivation fades so quickly, and why success seems to belong to someone else. Your inner voice is always talking. The question is, who taught it what to say? For many, it was shaped by criticism, comparison, and rejection. Those voices became internal echoes, repeating phrases like, "You're not good enough," "You always mess up," or "This is too hard for you." Over time, those words become part of your identity, and you stop questioning them. You accept them as truth. But the truth is, you are not obligated to believe every thought that enters your mind. You have the power to challenge, redirect, and replace that inner dialogue. You can choose to speak to yourself in a way that uplifts, energizes, and strengthens your resolve. This isn't about empty flattery or blind optimism. It's about becoming your own ally instead of your own enemy. When your mind says, "I can't," you counter with, "I'm learning." When it says, "What if I fail?" you respond, "What if I grow?" When it doubts your worth, you remind yourself of your progress, your resilience, your value. You do this not once, but daily, repeatedly, relentlessly, because your inner voice is a habit, and habits are built through consistency. Speak to yourself like someone you are responsible for, like someone who deserves patience, belief, and encouragement. When your inner voice becomes supportive, your outer world begins to shift. Confidence increases, energy returns, possibility expands, and even on the hard days, you don't collapse under pressure. You rise, because your words have become a source of strength, not sabotage. Change the way you speak to yourself, and you change the way you experience life. That's not inspiration, it's neuroscience. Your thoughts create your emotions drive your actions, and your actions shape your destiny. And it all begins with a voice in your head. Invention matters. You may have the strongest desire, the clearest vision, and the deepest purpose, but if you're constantly surrounded by negativity, distraction, and doubt, your potential will be buried under the weight of your surroundings. Just as a seed needs the right soil to grow, you need the right environment to thrive. It's not about being fragile. It's about being intentional. Even the strongest minds can be dulled by constant exposure to the wrong influences. Your environment is more than your physical space. It's the people you interact with, the conversations you entertain, the media you consume, and the atmosphere you choose to stay in. Every piece of it either feeds your growth or drains it. If you are around people who complain, who ridicule ambition, who view success as luck and failure as final, then you will begin to absorb that energy. Their doubts will become your doubts. Their limits will become your ceiling. But the opposite is also true. Surround yourself with people who challenge you, who speak life into your vision, who believe in effort and growth. And your entire perspective begins to shift. Your standards rise. Your habits evolve. Your thoughts become sharper, clearer, and more aligned with who you truly want to be. You don't have to cut everyone off or move across the world to change your environment. Sometimes it starts with small, deliberate choices. The book you read instead of the mindless scroll. The podcast that feeds your mind instead of the noise that fills it. The quiet space you create for reflection instead of constant distraction. It starts with creating a place, physically and mentally, where your future self would feel at home. You are the architect of your environment. You don't have to accept what drains you. You can design what inspires you. Every step toward a more empowering space is a step toward a stronger you. Guard your energy. Protect your mind. Cultivate surroundings that reflect your goals, not your fears. Because where you live, internally and externally, shapes what you become. And when your environment supports your evolution, growth is no longer a struggle. It becomes inevitable. You must act with purpose and belief, not just once, not just when it feels easy, but consistently, even when the outcome isn't guaranteed. Most people wait for clarity before they move. They wait to feel ready, to feel confident, to see proof that the path will work. But life doesn't reward hesitation. It rewards commitment. And that commitment must come first, from within, driven by purpose and powered by belief. Purpose gives your actions direction. It reminds you why you began. It keeps you focused when distractions come, when setbacks hit, when the voices of doubt grow louder. Without purpose, it's easy to drift, to chase things that look important but feel empty. But with purpose, you move with intention. Every step has weight. Every effort has meaning. Even your failures become fuel, not reasons to quit. Belief is the engine. It's what gives your purpose life. You can have a powerful dream, but if you don't believe you're worthy of it or capable of it, you'll sabotage your progress before it begins. Belief doesn't mean you have all the answers. It means you trust yourself to find them. It means you believe in growth more than perfection, in effort more than ease, in your potential more than your past. Together, purpose and belief form a force no obstacle can match. They give you resilience when most would give up. They give you clarity in moments of confusion. They turn hesitation into movement, fear into focus, struggle into strength. Because when you know where you're going and believe you belong there, nothing can hold you back for long. The world will always test your resolve. It will ask you again and again if you're serious. It will tempt you to play small, to shrink, to settle. But every time you act with purpose and belief, you answer that test with your feet, with your voice, with your progress, and you rise, not because conditions are perfect, but because your conviction is stronger than your circumstances. You don't need to predict the entire path. You just need to move with meaning and believe that the ground will rise to meet your step. That is how you begin to shape a life that reflects your vision, not your fears. So, as you stand at the edge of your next decision, remember this. The power to shape your life has always been in your hands, not in the hands of your past, not in the opinions of others, not in the limitations of your circumstance. Doubt may knock, fear may whisper, and obstacles may rise, but they hold no authority over you unless you surrender it. You are not here to drift. You are not here to shrink. You are here to build, to rise, to become. And that journey begins the moment you stop waiting for permission and start acting with purpose, with belief, and with the unshakable awareness that your mind is the master key. Guard it, feed it, lead it. Because once you do, the life you've imagined stops being a distant dream and starts becoming your daily reality. Now is the time. Not someday, not when it's convenient. Now. Speak with power, think with clarity, move with faith, and above all, never let the world outside you be louder than the voice of truth within you.